Mira Halden stepped off the shuttle ramp and into the wide courtyard of Astroforge Academy, the most advanced training institution humanity had ever built. Even with dozens of species attending, the academy felt unmistakably human. Sharp metal lines, bright banners, and a kind of stubborn pride baked into every wall. Mira felt that same pride in her chest as she walked toward the cadet registration hall. But it faded when she heard the first laugh behind her. It wasn't loud, just a quick snicker. Then another. Then whispers. She already knew what they were laughing at before she turned her head. She had known it would happen from the moment she packed it. The old bomber jacket hung from her shoulders like a shadow from a different century. Its sleeves were frayed, its patches faded, its collar worn in places that could never be repaired again. While every other cadet wore sleek nano-fiber uniforms straight from the academy's outfitting stations, Mira looked like she'd stepped out of a museum. A tall Larithian cadet with smooth silver scales walked past her with a smirk. "Is that actual Earth cloth?" he said to his companion, a red-skinned Arvakri student who stifled a laugh. "Not even reinforced." The Arvakri whispered back. "Humans bring these. What do they call them? Jackets? For comfort? Or is this a personal ritual? Maybe she thinks it looks heroic." Mira kept her eyes forward, pretending she didn't hear. She had expected the jokes. She had practiced ignoring them. But something about their casual, confident mockery still stung. This jacket had been her grandmother's. Every stitch mattered. Every burn mark had a story. But explaining that to strangers who lived in shining citadels on planets she had never visited felt pointless. She reached the registration hall doors and stepped inside. The air smelled of sterilized steel and fresh polish. Massive holographic banners floated overhead, displaying the Academy motto in every major language of the Orion Arm. Words scrolled below them. Strength through unity, progress through struggle. Mira walked into the main auditorium, where hundreds of cadets were gathering for the introductory address. Alien cadets of every size and color filled the rows of seats. Some wore metallic armor plating, others shimmered with biological membranes that doubled as uniforms. Everyone looked futuristic and important. Everyone, except her. She took an empty seat near the back, hoping not to draw attention. For a moment, the buzzing chatter quieted, and she let herself breathe. But the peace didn't last long. 2 human cadets slid into the row behind her. Human, but definitely not friendly. "That jacket is older than my great-grandmother," one muttered. "Did she forget her real uniform? Maybe she's sentimental," the other whispered. Humans and their old Earth junk. Mira's hands tightened into fists on her lap. She didn't turn around. She didn't say anything. She reminded herself that speaking up would only invite more attention. Better to stay quiet. Better to let the jacket speak for itself, whatever that meant. When the auditorium lights dimmed, a hush fell over the room as Instructor Ralvox walked onto the center platform. He was tall, even by his species standards, with deep cobalt skin and 4 dark eyes that moved independently. Ralvox's reputation as a tactical genius was known across the academy. He was strict, disciplined, and incredibly difficult to impress. The kind of instructor who made even senior officers sit straighter. "Cadets," he said, his voice resonating through the hall. "Welcome to Astroforge." The hall fell completely silent. Every cadet watched him with full attention. Ralvox tapped a holographic panel, and the list of incoming students appeared floating beside him. "When your name is called, acknowledge and stand. Your performance begins today." The roll call began. One by one, cadets from dozens of worlds stood proudly. Mira tried to focus on breathing, feeling the familiar weight of her jacket settle around her like armor. The jacket was warm, comforting. It always had been. Then Ralvox's voice paused. "Halden, Mira Halden." Mira stood quickly. "Present." "Instructor." Ralvox's 4 eyes moved toward her. That was normal. He always looked directly at each cadet. But then something strange happened. He didn't move on. Instead, all 4 of his eyes fixed on her jacket at once. His body went still. His voice, always strong and perfectly controlled, faltered just slightly, barely noticeable, but enough to send a ripple through the room. "Cadet, your jacket." His tone wasn't mocking, it wasn't annoyed. It was something the other cadets had never heard from him, something very close to shock. "Where did you acquire that?" A quiet wave spread through the auditorium. Whispers rose again, but these were different, confused, curious, edging toward nervous. Mira felt heat rush to her face. She looked down at the jacket without understanding what he meant. She opened her mouth to answer. But before she could speak, Ralvox lifted one long hand. "Remain after dismissal," he said. His voice had softened, almost hesitant. The roll call resumed, but his tone had changed. The calm precision was still there, but beneath it, something else brewed a weight, a memory. The cadets around Mira exchanged glances. Some raised eyebrows. Some leaned away from her as if the jacket was dangerous. Others stared in open fascination. By the time the roll call ended and the instructor dismissed them, Mira could feel dozens of eyes on her back. When the room emptied, Mira walked toward the center platform, where Ralvox waited. The massive hall felt too quiet, too big. She felt like a bug under a magnifying lens. Ralvox studied her jacket again, slowly, carefully, as though he were afraid to touch it. "This insignia," he said in a low voice. He pointed to a faded patch on her right sleeve. It was nearly colorless, the shape difficult to make out unless someone knew what to look for. Mira had never thought much of it. Her grandmother never spoke about it. "The star with 3 broken rays," Ralvox continued. "That mark belonged to Task Group Polaris. Do you know what that is?" Mira blinked. "No, Instructor." "I don't." The instructor inhaled through his secondary breathing vents, another sign of rattled composure. Mira had seen recordings of him teaching. He never showed emotion. Not like this. "Task Group Polaris," he said, almost whispering, "was a specialized human strike unit during the Nightfall conflicts. Official records list them as non-existent. Rumors claim they operated beyond charted space, appearing in battles where human presence was impossible." He paused, his 4 eyes narrowing. "Many believed they were a myth." Mira shook her head slowly. "I'm sorry, Instructor. My grandmother. She just said this was her old flight jacket. I didn't know anything else." N1. Ralvox studied her with an expression she couldn't read. "Your grandmother's name?" "Ilara Halden." The alien instructor shut his eyes for a long moment. When he opened them again, the shock had faded into something deeper. Recognition, maybe even respect. "I fought during the Nightfall siege," Ralvox said. "I saw the impossible that day. A human ship appeared from nowhere, flew directly into the heart of the Karth Dominion fleet, and executed a maneuver that defied every tactical law my people understood." He looked again at the insignia on her jacket. The ship carried that symbol. Mira felt the ground sway beneath her. Her grandmother? In a battle? In some secret mission no one talked about? The thought felt impossible. Her grandmother had been gentle, warm, quiet, someone who liked gardening and evening tea, someone who told stories about peaceful Earth sunsets, not classified military operations. "My grandmother never mentioned anything like that," Mira whispered. "She would not have," Ralvox said. "If she was Polaris, her work would have been buried under layers of silence." The instructor took a step back from her, his expression cautious, almost reverent. "This jacket is not a piece of nostalgia, Cadet Halden. It is one of the rarest artifacts in the Orion Arm." Mira didn't know what to say. She felt exposed and confused, like the ground had shifted beneath her feet and she was still trying to find balance. Ralvox spoke again, softer now. "You must understand something. The Polaris unit is feared in some circles, admired in others, but always remembered, even when the official records say they never existed." He straightened his stance, and his usual stern tone returned. "You may keep the jacket. It is yours by right. But know this. The moment you walked into the academy wearing it, you stepped into a legacy many believed was gone forever." Mira swallowed hard. 1,000 questions rushed through her mind, but none of them felt like the right one. She simply nodded. "Yes, Instructor, "Dismissed, Cadet Halden," he said quietly. "And take care of that jacket." As she walked out of the auditorium, Mira felt every pair of eyes waiting in the hallway turn toward her. But this time, no one laughed. No one whispered insults. They only stared with confusion, uncertainty, and something else they did not yet understand. The jacket felt heavier now, not burdensome, just full of truth she was only beginning to uncover. Mira walked out of the auditorium with the weight of 1,000 questions pressing against her mind. The hallway outside was crowded with cadets, pretending they weren't staring at her. But every glance lingered a moment too long. It felt like she had walked into the academy as one person and stepped out as someone entirely different. Someone carrying a history she didn't understand. She kept her eyes forward and headed toward her assigned dorm. The corridor lighting shifted colors as she moved, adjusting to the presence of different species. Humans received neutral white illumination. Other cadets glowed faintly under lights tailored to their biology. It was one of the Academy's many advanced systems, smooth, elegant, and far removed from anything her grandmother's generation ever had. As Mira walked, she heard footsteps behind her. Light ones. Someone trying not to draw attention. "Mira, wait." She turned to see Jaren, the Larithian cadet who had smirked at her earlier. His silver scales reflected the hallway lights like mirrors. Now, though, he didn't look amused. He looked uneasy. "Hey," Jaren said, slightly out of breath. About earlier. The jacket jokes. Just messing around, you know. Didn't mean anything." Mira raised an eyebrow. "Really?" "Yeah, really," he said quickly. "We didn't know it was, you know, that." "That?" Mira asked. He shifted awkwardly. "Connected to some legendary human strike group." "Polaris. You have to admit that's kind of intense." "I didn't know either." Jaren nodded, rubbing the back of his neck. "Still, it was rude. So, sorry." The apology sounded genuine, but his curiosity was stronger than his guilt. Mira could see it in his eyes. He wanted to ask questions he didn't have the courage to voice. "It's fine," she said, though she wasn't sure she meant it. "I didn't come here to impress anyone." We have the wind." "We have the wind." 40 and windy." "I didn't come here to impress anyone." "Good," he said. Then he hesitated. "If you ever want to train together, or something. I mean, if the Polaris thing runs in your blood." She cut him off gently. "I don't even know what Polaris is." He blinked, surprised. "Instructor Ralvox didn't explain?" "Not fully." "Oh." Jaren nodded again, then stepped aside. "Well, see you around, Halden." Mira continued down the corridor until she reached her dorm room, room 2-17. The door recognized her ID chip and slid open. Inside, the room was simple. 2 beds, 2 desks, 2 storage units. She was the first to arrive. Her roommate, whoever it was, hadn't shown up yet. The walls were bare. A single window displayed the purple sky of Astroforge's planet, a gas giant's swirling colors painting patterns across the horizon. She placed her bag on the bed and sat beside it. For a moment, she ran her hand across the jacket sleeve. The faded insignia, the worn fabric, it felt familiar, yet now held a weight she had never imagined. Polaris, a mythical military unit, a secret force, and her grandmother. Part of it? She needed answers. A chime sounded from her desk terminal. A message appeared. "Cadet Halden, report to Strategic Archives in Sector B at 1,900 hours. Instructor Ralvox." Her stomach tightened. She checked the time. She had an hour. Mira freshened up, tied her hair back, and left the room with her jacket zipped halfway. She wasn't ready to take it off. Not until she understood why the insignia mattered so much. The walk to Sector B took her through quieter halls and down an elevator that sank deep underground. The air got cooler. The lighting dimmed. Security checkpoints increased with every level. Finally, she reached a large door, marked Strategic Archives. Authorized personnel only. It slid open as she approached. Inside, the room was vast and circular, filled with layered holographic screens, old data cubes, and sealed memory vaults. The air smelled faintly metallic. A sense of history, heavy and hidden, filled the space. Instructor Ralvox stood near the central console, hands behind his back. "Cadet Halden," he said. "Thank you for coming." Mira stepped closer. "You said you wanted to show me something." "I do." He gestured to the central hologram pad. "Please stand here." First formant. Aways lime. Formentated formant. Formentated formentated. Formentated 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 formant. Mira obeyed. The pad activated, sending a ripple of blue light across the floor. A large holographic projection rose in the air, a star map. Unfamiliar and complex. Ralvox circled her slowly. "Before we proceed, you must understand that what I show you is restricted information. You cannot discuss it with other cadets." "I understand." "Good." He tapped a panel, and the star map zoomed into a smaller region. Mira saw blurry battle markers, movement lines, and strange coded signatures. "This," Ralvox said softly, "is the Nightfall Siege." She heard the name but didn't recognize it. "I've never learned about this." "You wouldn't have?" Most species keep the details sealed out of fear. The Karth Dominion launched a massive strike across 3 systems. They expected to crush all resistance. His voice lowered. They would have succeeded, if not for a single human ship. Mira's heart pounded. "A Polaris ship?" "Yes." Ralvox's expression tightened. "Your grandmother's." Mira shook her head slowly. "I don't understand. She never talked about any of this. She wasn't in the military." "Many Polaris members lived dual lives," Ralvox explained. "Public identities as civilians. Secret roles in a program that pushed human resilience and creativity far beyond standard operation. They performed tasks that most species believed impossible." He activated another display. A blurred image appeared, an old recording filled with static. A ship silhouette flickered briefly. It had the same symbol as her jacket. Mira's breath caught. "That ship executed the Nightfall Spiral maneuver," Ralvox said. "A move so unpredictable that even advanced tactical AIs crash trying to simulate it." Mira stared at the hologram. "So my grandmother saved systems. She changed the course of the conflict," Ralvox said. But the official story hid everything. Humans claimed it was a coalition force to avoid making themselves a target. Other species quietly agreed. Mira swallowed. "Why show me this? I'm not my grandmother." "No," Ralvox said gently. "But you carry her legacy. And that jacket was not just clothing. It was only given to Polaris pilots who completed their final mission." Mira ran her fingers over the fabric again. Suddenly, the jacket felt like a message from a woman she never truly knew. Ralvox stepped closer. "There is more." He opened a sealed memory vault. Inside was a holochip, labeled Halden, E. Mira inhaled sharply. "That's..." "Yes," Ralvox said. "Your grandmother left a personal log. It was recovered from the battle site, classified ever since." He inserted the chip into the hologram console. A figure materialized in front of them, grainy, flickering, but unmistakably human. A woman with sharp eyes, dark hair streaked with gray, and the same calm determination Mira had always admired. "Hello," the hologram said. "If someone is watching this, then I couldn't tell my family the truth." Mira's legs nearly gave out. Ralvox steadied her gently. "This is her," Mira whispered. The hologram continued. "I'm part of Task Group Polaris. We are not legends. We are not ghosts. We are people who do what must be done when no one else can. If this log is ever found, whoever holds my jacket must know one thing. Humans survive by facing the impossible head-on." The projection ended abruptly. Mira wiped at her eyes, surprised to feel tears. "She never told me," she whispered. "She never said anything." Polaris members carried heavy responsibilities, Ralvox said. Silence was their duty. Mira grew quiet, absorbing everything. Her grandmother's voice still echoed in her mind. "What does this mean for me?" she finally asked. Ralvox studied her carefully. "It means you are more than you believed. It means you are the descendant of a woman who shaped history. And it means the Academy will expect more from you now." Mira felt the familiar weight of pressure forming in her chest. But beneath it, something new stirred strength. Purpose. A spark of the same fire she had just seen in the hologram. Ralvox stepped back and folded his arms. "I am reactivating a training program once connected to Polaris. A program for cadets who show unusual instinct and courage. I want you to be the first to enter." Mira stared at him. "Why me?" "Because you walked into this academy wearing a symbol of impossible courage," Ralvox said calmly. "And because you did so without knowing its story. That tells me something important." "What?" "That you are not trying to be a legend," he said. "You are simply being yourself. And sometimes, that is how legends begin." Mira didn't know how to answer. She felt overwhelmed, frightened, proud, and determined, all at once. Ralvox gave her a small nod. "Think about it tonight. Tomorrow morning, I will expect your decision." She nodded slowly. "I understand." Mira left the strategic archives in silence. As she walked back through the long corridors and up the elevator to the dorm levels, her mind replayed her grandmother's voice over and over. Humans survive by facing the impossible head-on. Outside her dorm window, the gas giant's purple storms swirled endlessly. She stared at them, feeling the weight of destiny settle into her bones. For the first time since she arrived, the old Earth jacket didn't feel out of place. It felt like it belonged. And maybe, she thought, so did she. The next morning, Mira woke before the academy bells rang. Her body felt heavy. Not from sleep, but from thoughts that refused to settle. The jacket lay across the foot of her bed, soft and familiar, yet heavy with history she was only beginning to understand. She ran her fingers along its worn fabric, tracing the faded insignia, and tried to imagine her grandmother in the battles described by Ralvox. She had pictured Alara Halden as gentle, kind, and quiet, not as a pilot who had defied impossible odds to save entire systems. Breakfast in the cadet hall was always a mix of routine and chaos. Dozens of species crowded long tables, consuming protein gels, nutrient packs, and strange alien foods that Mira had yet to try. Today, however, the murmurs followed her like shadows. She felt eyes on the jacket, on her, on the weight of something they could not name. Jaren appeared beside her table, carrying a tray of human-style breakfast. He gave her a hesitant smile. "You okay?" he asked. "I think so," Mira said, carefully avoiding his gaze at first. "It's just a lot to process." "I can imagine," he said, sliding into the seat across from her. "You're kind of famous now, you know. People who mocked you yesterday are, well, silent today." Mira let a small laugh escape, more nervous than amused. "I'm not famous. Maybe not yet," Jaren said. "But everyone is curious. Polaris is a name that carries weight even here. And your jacket? It's like a key to a story no one really believed was true." She frowned. "A key to what?" "Everything," he said quietly. "History, danger, the kind of courage that most cadets can't even imagine." They ate in near silence for a while. Mira focused on her tray, thinking about Ralvox's words and the hologram of her grandmother. She had never felt more connected to someone who had been gone for years, and she had never felt more unsure of her own place in the galaxy. By the time classes began, word had spread. Cadets she had never spoken to approached her with polite nods, whispered questions, or tentative smiles. A few of the more daring ones even asked if they could train with her. Mira accepted some invitations but declined others, not out of pride, but because she needed time to understand what she had stepped into. The first class was tactics with Instructor Ralvox himself. Mira entered the training room, feeling the eyes of dozens of cadets fixed on her. Some glanced at her jacket. Others avoided looking entirely. It didn't matter. She carried herself with the quiet determination her grandmother had always embodied. Ralvox began with a lecture about predictive strategy, threat assessment, and maneuver theory. His voice was sharp, precise. But every now and then, his eyes flicked toward Mira, as though watching her absorb every word. She paid close attention, noticing details that others might miss: the subtle cues, the timing of enemy movements, the invisible threads connecting separate actions into a single pattern. When it was time for practical exercises, cadets were divided into squads for simulated combat scenarios. Mira was assigned to a group that included Jaren, two Arvakri twins named Kalo and Rena, and a Narioth cadet named Vin. "Your mission," Ralvox announced, "is to capture the central control node while defending your squad from the enemy team. You have 15 minutes. The holographic field shimmered to life. Virtual landscapes stretched around them: towers, barricades, and hidden tunnels. Mira's team took their positions, and the simulation began. At first, the squad struggled. Kilo and Rena bickered constantly, arguing about which approach to take. Vin, despite his size and strength, moved cautiously, overthinking every step. Jaren looked to Mira for guidance. She took a deep breath, letting the lessons from Ralvox's lecture sink in. Then she made a choice. "Move left," she said firmly. "Kilo, cover the perimeter. Rena, follow me. Vin, hold the center corridor. Jaren, stay with me." Her squad hesitated for a moment, then fell in line. Mira led them through a series of quick, decisive maneuvers. They dodged attacks, bypassed traps, and outsmarted the opposing team at every turn. The simulation's AI adapted rapidly, but Mira found patterns in its behavior, exploiting gaps it hadn't considered. The final challenge came when the opposing team attempted a coordinated strike on the control node. Mira paused, her mind racing. She remembered the hologram of her grandmother, the nightfall spiral, the impossible maneuvers described by Ralvox. Taking a calculated risk, she directed her squad into a maneuver that mirrored what she had only just understood: unpredictable, bold, and precise. The AI faltered. Its prediction algorithms couldn't keep up. Mira's squad captured the control node with seconds to spare. The simulation ended. The room erupted in quiet astonishment. Cadets stared at her. Some whispered to each other. Others looked at their instructors in disbelief. Even Ralvox allowed a faint nod of approval. "That was," he began, his voice controlled, "unexpected, efficient, unorthodox, remarkable." Unorthodox. Mira's chest swelled with a mix of pride and relief. She had done it, not for fame, not to prove herself, but because she had felt the weight of her grandmother's legacy and decided to rise to it. After class, Jaren approached her again. "That move you made," he said, eyes wide. "The one at the end. That was insane. Impossible. Like something no cadet should be able to do." Mira shrugged, feeling the jacket on her shoulders. "I just remembered something my grandmother said. Humans survive by facing the impossible. I guess I just tried to do that." Jaren nodded slowly. "You weren't just facing the impossible. You made it look easy." Word of her performance spread quickly. By the next meal, cadets approached her, eager to learn her tactics, to understand her thinking. Some were cautious, keeping their distance but watching her intently. Others were braver, asking if she could train with them after classes. Mira realized something important. The jacket, the Polaris legacy, the lessons from her grandmother, they were not just history. They were a bridge, a way to show other species and other humans that humanity's strength lay not in advanced technology or raw power alone, but in creativity, courage, and unpredictability. By evening, Mira returned to her dorm, exhausted but determined. She unpacked her bag, laying her training gear next to her jacket. For the first time, she felt the weight of responsibility differently, not as a burden, but as a challenge she wanted to meet. There was a knock at the door. Mira opened it to find Jaren standing there, holding 2 cups of nutrient tea. "Thought you might need this," he said. "After all, the chaos today." "Thanks," Mira said, taking one. They sat in silence for a moment, sipping the warm liquid. "Can I ask you something?" Jaren finally said. "Of course. Do you feel different after today?" Mira thought for a moment. "Yes. I feel like I'm part of something bigger. Like I'm standing in a line of people who refuse to accept limits. My grandmother, Polaris, this academy. I want to be part of that." Jaren smiled. "I think you already are, and you didn't even know it at first." They drank in silence, the room glowing softly under the dorm lights. Mira touched the jacket again, feeling its warmth and history. She realized that wearing it wasn't just about remembering the past, it was about carrying a standard into the future, about showing what humans could do when they refused to bow to impossibility. Later, as the dorm fell silent, and the stars outside her window swirled in brilliant patterns, Mira thought about what Ralvox had said. The academy would expect more from her now. She wasn't afraid. She was ready. The jacket had been a symbol yesterday. Today, it was part of her identity. And tomorrow, she would step into training not as a cadet, afraid of mockery, but as a human carrying a legacy that demanded courage. Somewhere deep inside, she imagined her grandmother smiling quietly, approving of the choice she had made. And in that smile, Mira felt the strength to face whatever came next, to push further, and to embrace the impossible. Her first day, as more than just a cadet, had ended. The journey had only begun. The next morning, Mira woke to the sound of the academy bells. But this time she did not feel anxious. Instead, she felt a steady determination pulsing through her veins. The jacket lay across her shoulders as she dressed. Every worn patch, every frayed edge, seemed to whisper encouragement, reminding her of her grandmother's courage, her family's legacy, and the impossible feats humans were capable of. Breakfast was quieter than yesterday. Many cadets still looked her way, but now their expressions were a mix of curiosity and cautious respect. Jaren was already at the table, saving her a seat. "Morning," he said. "Ready for the big simulation today?" Mira nodded. "I think so. It's not just a simulation, right?" Jaren smiled. "Not for you. The instructors have been watching. After what you did yesterday, this one's going to test everything you've got." Mira sipped her nutrient tea, thinking about the words. This was her chance to show that humans could handle the impossible. Even against advanced AI and multiple species trained for centuries in tactics and combat, she felt the old Earth jacket settle around her like armor, a tangible reminder of who she was and what she represented. The simulation arena was enormous, a multi-level holographic battlefield with shifting terrain, complex structures, and multiple objectives. Cadets were divided into teams for a joint exercise that combined strategy, combat, and resource management. Mira's team consisted of Jaren, Kilo, Rena, Vin, and 2 new cadets she had not met before, a human named Leela, and a small, agile alien named Therix. Ralvox addressed them from a platform above the arena. "Your objective is to capture the central control hub and defend it from the opposing team. The AI will adapt to your moves, and your opponents will attempt to counter your strategy. You have 20 minutes. Begin." The holographic field shimmered, and the simulation started. Immediately, chaos erupted. The opposing team moved in unexpected patterns, testing their defenses from multiple directions. Mira took a deep breath, recalling the tactical lessons from Ralvox and the stories of her grandmother. "Split into pairs," she ordered. "Jaren and Vin, cover the right flank. Kello and Rena, take the left. Lila and Therix, follow me through the center corridor. Stay alert, and watch for unpredictable moves." Her team followed her commands, moving with precision. The AI adjusted rapidly, sending simulated threats and traps in ways that seemed impossible to anticipate. Mira's mind raced, tracking every move, predicting outcomes, and adjusting their actions. At one point, The AI created a blockade in the center, cutting off Mira and her squad from the hub. The opposing team advanced quickly, trying to overwhelm her squad. Mira paused, remembering the hologram of her grandmother performing the Nightfall spiral maneuver. "This is it," she whispered to herself. "Impossible or not, we do it anyway." She gave quick, precise instructions. The squad moved in a pattern that seemed illogical at first, splitting, converging, and then circling back, forcing the AI to miscalculate. Kilo and Rena used distractions while Jaren and Vin flanked the opposing units. Mira led Lila and Theryx through a hidden corridor to reach the central control hub. The AI predicted some moves, but Mira's approach was unpredictable. She noticed a blind spot in its calculations and seized the moment. With careful coordination, her team reached the hub, activating the control systems just as the AI recalculated the positions of the opposing forces. The arena lights flashed green. Victory. The room erupted in astonishment. Cadets whispered among themselves, unable to believe what had happened. Instructors observed silently, some taking notes, others exchanging glances of disbelief. Mira's chest swelled with pride, not for herself alone, but for the team and the legacy she had carried. Ralvox stepped down from his platform, his four eyes narrowing slightly. "Remarkable," he said. "You executed maneuvers I did not believe a cadet could perform. Unorthodox, efficient, and decisive. This is the kind of thinking that defines humanity: unpredictable, adaptable, and resilient." Mira felt the weight of his praise and the significance of her actions. She had done more than win a simulation. She had shown that humans could face the impossible, adapt in ways no algorithm could predict, and lead others to success. After the simulation, cadets approached her with questions, admiration, and requests for guidance. Even those who had mocked her the first day now sought her attention, wanting to learn from her methods. Mira realized that respect was not given, it was earned, through courage, creativity, and the willingness to step into the unknown. Later, in the quiet of the training hall, Mira and Jaren walked together toward the dormitories. "You know," Jaren said, "I think people will start paying more attention to human cadets from now on. That move you pulled, they've never seen anything like it." Mira smiled softly. "I didn't do it for them. I did it because I had to. And because I could. My grandmother showed me that humans survive by facing the impossible head-on. That's what I'm trying to do." "Access. You're not just trying," Jaren said. "You're succeeding. Everyone saw that." Mira paused, glancing at the horizon beyond the academy walls. The purple clouds of the gas giant swirled above, the stars shining brightly. She imagined her grandmother watching from somewhere beyond the veil of time, nodding with approval. The thought filled her with determination. When she returned to her dorm, she found a message from Ralvox on her terminal. "Cadet Halden, your performance today demonstrates extraordinary potential. You are invited to join the Polaris Initiative re-established for the purpose of advancing human strategic influence in the Orion Arm. Report to the Initiative briefing room at 0800 hours tomorrow. Instructor Ralvox." Mira's heart pounded. Polaris. After everything, the name was coming back into her life. Not as a memory or a legend, but as a living opportunity. She stared at the message, her fingers brushing the faded insignia on her jacket. She felt a mixture of awe, responsibility, and anticipation. That night, she lay on her bed, the jacket draped across her. She thought of her grandmother, of the Nightfall siege, of the countless untold stories carried in the folds of the worn fabric. She realized that the jacket was not just a connection to the past, it was a guide for the future. Mira slept with a sense of purpose she had never felt before. The jacket was no longer just clothing. It was a symbol of resilience, courage, and human potential. The next morning, she arrived at the Polaris Initiative briefing room early. The room was sleek, advanced, and lined with holographic maps, tactical boards, and displays of past operations. Cadets selected for the initiative stood in formation, all eyes forward. Mira felt the weight of expectation, but it was no longer heavy, it was inspiring. Ralvox entered, moving with the same calm authority as ever. He stopped before the cadets and scanned the room. His 4 eyes settled on Mira for a long moment. "Cadets," he began. "Welcome to the Polaris Initiative. You are the next generation of human strategic operatives. Your mission is not only to train, but to lead, innovate, and demonstrate that humanity is capable of shaping the course of galactic events in ways no one else can predict." He gestured to the holographic displays. "You will undergo simulations, tactical exercises, and missions designed to test every facet of your ingenuity and courage. Success will require teamwork, creativity, and a willingness to take risks that others fear to attempt." Mira felt the jacket tighten around her shoulders, as if acknowledging the challenge. She glanced at her fellow cadets, some confident, others nervous, and realized that, together, they represented humanity's potential. The first exercise began immediately. The cadets were tasked with coordinating a complex maneuver to secure multiple objectives in a multi-level simulation while facing adaptive AI opponents. Mira led her squad with precision, combining strategy, improvisation, and the instinct she had honed since arriving at Astroforge. The AI attempted to predict her moves, but she anticipated its calculations, exploiting gaps and creating opportunities for her team to advance. Every decision was deliberate, every maneuver bold, and every success a testament to human ingenuity. At the climax of the exercise, the AI launched a coordinated strike designed to overwhelm her squad. Mira paused, assessed the situation, and initiated a maneuver reminiscent of the Nightfall Spiral. It was risky, unconventional, and required absolute trust from her team. They executed flawlessly. The AI faltered. The simulation recognized their victory, awarding maximum points for creativity, efficiency, and coordination. Ralvox's voice echoed through the briefing room. "Extraordinary. This is human adaptability at its finest. You are proving that, even against advanced opponents, humans possess the ability to innovate and overcome." Mira's squad exchanged looks of disbelief and triumph. The cadets who had once mocked her now approached, offering congratulations and requesting advice. She smiled, realizing that respect had been earned not through arrogance, but through courage and competence. As the day ended, Mira returned to her dorm, exhausted but exhilarated. She removed the jacket and carefully folded it, placing it on the desk. Its weight was no longer a burden, but a reminder of her potential. She had stepped into her grandmother's legacy, not as a passive observer, but as an active participant in humanity's story. Looking out at the stars, Mira whispered to herself, "We survive by facing the impossible. And now, it's my turn." She knew the journey ahead would be filled with challenges, trials, and dangers. But for the first time, she felt ready. The old Earth jacket was not just a piece of clothing, it was a symbol of resilience, courage, and human potential. And with it on her shoulders, Mira Halden would continue the legacy of Polaris, showing the galaxy what humans were truly capable of. The stars above seemed to shine brighter, as if acknowledging the beginning of something extraordinary. Mira straightened, her heart steady, and prepared for the next mission. Humanity's story was far from over, and she was ready to write the next chapter.